Hello friends, today I wanted to discuss the wizard named Harry. That's right, Harry I'm sorry? Oh. Oh, I see. It's in the title. So we'll probably cut this from the video then. Alright, what's up everybody? So I wanted to discuss why you should read the Dresden Files by Jim Butcher. So I should probably just run through real quick the premise of the series. It is urban fantasy set in Chicago, where Harry Dresden is a wizard that basically is in the area, so it's kind of like his territory, and he helps consult on special cases with the Chicago Police Department, and he helps Lieutenant Karen Murphy, who is the head of that unit, to solve crimes as needed. And he also has his own office for private investigation, basically, so people like have a lost cat or whatever, they come to him and try to find it through supernatural means if they have a reason they don't want to go to the police, or if they feel that something more is involved than just day-to-day human people. So that's the premise. The first book, Stormfront, is really fun. It's got a really straightforward plot, even though there's a lot going on and it's really weird and things like that. It's not too much being thrown at you as far as plot goes. You can just kind of ease in, get introduced to the characters, how the magic system works, just what kind of phenomena are accepted in this world as being real. And one of the best things about this first book is actually the relationship between Dresden and Karen Murphy, who is the head of the unit, as I said earlier, and just their kind of back and forth and how they work together was really one of the best parts of this book for me. That I really enjoyed, as well as I really liked Bob, the horny ghost who lives inside of a skull that teaches Harry how to make potions and things like that. This whole book is just ridiculous. This whole series is ridiculous. So it's not serious at all, although there are very serious moments when it comes to Dresden's character and other side characters too. That's what makes the series great. Anytime you can have a series, for me, that is fun but also has weighty character implications. One example that's popping in my head right now is the Avatar TV show. So, first book in Dresden does this really well. The next book, Full Moon, I don't know if it's just because it's werewolves, but it seems like there's a consensus that people don't like this book as much. I definitely didn't, because to me the plot was really convoluted. It lost to me the whole fun of the first book, and it just felt less inspired. So I don't know if he just really wasn't feeling it. There's way too many types of werewolf that are in this book, and it just gets overwhelming at times to try to keep track of how everything's going on. And then it also kind of feels like a soap opera where it's just like, hey, and then this happened, and it's like, okay, what can go wrong next? And then that happens, and then what could go wrong next? And that happens, but it's like too much. The pacing is just absolutely frantic, and the problem with that was I just didn't care. That's kind of a tough sell, telling somebody, hey, like, book one's cool, it's not like amazing, and then book two, it's a bad book. I gave it 2 stars on Goodreads. It's just, to me, flat out not a good book. You could conceivably skip it and pick up book 3. You'd probably be a little confused, but you can probably just read like the plot summary on Wikipedia. I don't know if that's like sacrilege, but I might even suggest doing that. Book 3 brings back a lot of the things that I like most about the series, and then also introduced some really good side characters that were really fun. There's Michael, who's basically like a sort of servant of God, so his play with Harry on religion and things like that was a really nice contrast. I really like how Butcher set them up and gave both, didn't have one clearly superior to the other, just kind of had them going back and forth. They each made their points, but it was good-natured, but also, thought-provoking and things like that. Michael's just a good dude. He's just a good character to root for. And then also another character introduced was Dresden's fairy godmother. Really about this book and her character that was cool is in the background of both of the first books, you've known about this wider problem. In these moments, in the first 2 books, as Harry needs to get things done, he either ends up having to call in favors that somehow affect this larger conflict or potential conflict, or he has to burn bridges that are going to accelerate this conflict that's kind of going on in the background that you're only getting inklings of it. Well, in Grave Peril, you really start to feel that some shit's about to go down. And Dresden is directly influencing that in huge ways. And at the end of this third book, something that he does causes something to happen that I can't wait to get to the fourth book and see what the ramifications are going to be, because that book's just going to be insane. I can already tell. So real quick, just some other things. The whole thing with Dresden that is really interesting. First of all, he's kind of like Snape, but chill. So he loves potions. He's super brilliant. Man, he's even got like the greasy black hair. I mean, it's all there. Loves black. The thing with Dresden is he's a really good dude. He's a little outmoded in his, I guess, thoughts. Like, he's got the chivalry thing, but it's done in a charming way to where like you don't feel like it's a bad thing. It's just kind of like it just is how he is. Like, he's gonna put himself in harm's way. He wants to take a bullet for a woman instead of her taking it from him. I don't know how you feel about that, but for me, like, it's not a bad thing. But he does have that way, and usually it's done in a way that shows that he's kind of dumb for not thinking that women can handle themselves. That's kind of why I like Murphy so much, because he's just a total badass. But anyways, so with Dresden, his whole thing is basically that he can't see the bigger picture. He just sees somebody in trouble or something wrong, and he feels it is his personal responsibility to inject himself in that situation and fix it, no matter what the consequences are for himself. And usually it involves him putting himself at even more risk for a future story or future event down the road. He's sacrificing of himself in that moment to spare a life or what have you. He's a truly noble character in that way. And as you continue to read, you really get more of Dresden's inner motivation, and it's really fascinating, his backstory. And I don't even think I've touched a tenth of it yet, but you understand why he is the way he is. And he's kind of a tragic character in kind of way, because I don't know where this is going for him. Obviously there's like 18 to 20 books or something. You know, if in the moment somebody is on a train track tied up with ropes and a train's coming, and somebody asks him like, hey, will you let me capture you and literally torture you every day for a year if it means that I'll let him go? Dresden's going to say yeah, 100 times out of 100. That's just who he is. So that's Dresden for me. I think that it's definitely worth picking up and trying. If you haven't tried it already, go to your local library if you have one of those, and just pick out the first book and just check it out. If it's not your thing, it's cool. But if you don't want to do that, the Kindle editions I think are pretty cheap, like $3 or something, so you can check out the first book and just see if you like the vibe or not. It's kind of a normal like pulp style book. You're just following his one point of view. Some ridiculous things happen constantly. Some really funny things happen. Jim Butcher has kind of like that Terry Pratchett kind of feel for comedy, where just like the most absurd thing, but it makes sense still in the context of the world, and just really plays it up for laughs. It's really, really, really well done. And just a side note, Jim Butcher has to be like my favorite author in terms of like cool factor. The guy just like, he should be in like a rock band or something. If you've ever seen like an interview of him, he's just so cool, like laid back, and just gives like the funniest answers, but he's also still like super smart, but it's also kind of like he's the cool kid in class that like doesn't really want to be there, but he's like also super smart, so he can still participate. I don't really know what I'm saying. I just like Jim Butcher. I like Dresden. Check it out if you haven't, and I'll see you next time.